person on our program this afternoon is none other than one of the most hardworking ministers in the cabinet, our own minister, Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport. And we ask him to join us at the podium now. Thank you.
Thank you. Doc. I'm not as tall as Mr. George. Thank you. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Terence Dialsing, Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, exactly where the interchange falls. Senator the Honorable Donna Cox, Minister of Communication. His Excellency Yu Ming Song, Ambassador of China to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Adrian Leons, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport. The Honorable Esmond Ford, Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, Deputy Speaker of the House Representative. Ms. Sonia Francis Yearwood, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport. Representative from the NIDCO, National Infrastructure Development Company Limited. Representative from China Railway Construction Caribbean Company Limited. Special invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Now, on my swearing in as a minister, I indicated to the population that I see my job as accomplishing the goals that the government would have set in our 2015 manifesto in terms of infrastructure. And I said so on the basis that we would get value for money and we would be doing more with less. Immediately upon entering the office, and this was not part of my presentation today, but I should give you an indication as to how we approached it. There was an invoice on the minister's desk to be signed off for $3 million. This is the second day I'm in office. The first day I went to the President's house. I didn't go to the office. The second day I went to the office. And I thought that that couldn't be what I want to take the cabinet on my first cabinet note. And I remember calling in the then permanent secretary, the director of highways, and I said, something has to be wrong. Why it is that I have to take a invoice, a cabinet note for $3 million for emergency work? There was a landslip in Maraval and a piece of the hillside came down. And I said, let me look at how, give me 1 week, let me think about this. And I said to them, look, let us evaluate how we came up with that cost. Let us call in the contractor to supply us with the amount of equipment, the amount of hours worked. And we were able to cut that invoice down to below $1 million by utilizing a bonded rate based on how much equipment, the hours that was worked, and adding something for mobilization. And there and then we realized that if we look at doing more with less, getting value for money, we could cut the price that we were paying for services considerable. And that invoice moved from close to $3 million to below $1 million. And I say so on the back that that was the approach that we took at the ministry. Another note that I found on the desk was a note for $1.7 billion to start a highway from Kumoto to Manzalina. At the time, this was for one phase. And I thought at the time that if we spoke about getting the local contractors involved, why are we going this way? The tender for that project, I think 4 companies tendered. I think 3 were foreign companies and there were 1 local. The local was disqualified because they couldn't even raise the bond for $1.7 billion. We retendered the project, breaking it up into different phases. And what was significant on the retender, there were 5 locals and 1 foreign contractor. The foreign contractor who won the first bid placed last in terms of price. The new process showed that the foreign contractor, I think their bid was $600 million for that package. We awarded the contract for $400 million, 50% less by a local contractor, just by breaking the project up into smaller pieces, allowing foreign and locals to compete. And there we were able to save on that one package $200 million. We went on then to the Point Fortin Highway. And there again, we all know of the challenges. The project was stopped, the contractor was changed, and we broke the project up into several pieces, inviting both foreign and local contractors. We had 12 packages. The 12 packages have been awarded. We have 5 local contractors on the job. But what is significant about that project, the initial price on that project was about $115 million per kilometer. We were able to significantly reduce the cost on that project. And if you compare the first highway, the Kumoto to Manzalina Highway, same field, same green field, same sort of project, we brought in the Kumoto to Manzalina, to Sani Grande, the Kumoto to Sani Grande Highway at $80 million. Compare that to $115 million, what the San Fernando Highway was being built for at the time. And that is what we spoke about when we said competitive tendering, bringing everybody into the game and reducing the price. We were able to roll the price down. And remember, the San Fernando Highway at $115 million per kilometer, the contractor indicated he could not finish it for that price. And that is why we had the OAS terminating the contract. They wanted more than $115 million per kilometer. We are doing those same highways now for an average of $80 million with local contractors. We went to the Maruga first class road. It's almost a single lane highway. We broke that up into 42 packages, and as we speak, we have 34 completed, 4 ongoing, 4 to be tendered, 22 local contractors on board there. And then the Valencia to Toco recently started, broke up that into smaller packages. We have 8 packages, Valencia to Toco Highway. So far, 6 packages awarded, 6 contractors. I understand next week the 7th will be awarded, and we have 1 more package. Now, what I'm drawing to your attention here is the fact that we were able to tailor the packages so both the local and foreign contractors can compete, and as a country we benefit from competitive tendering. Then we came to the Curepe Interchange. And the Curepe Interchange is a project that is very dear to my heart because I got a lot of licks for this project. This project actually started, this as part of the East-West Corridor Traffic Alleviation Project, started by a PNM government in 2004. This East-West Corridor Transformation and Traffic Alleviation Project started in 2004. We started with the Grand Bazaar Interchange, then they went on to the 3 phases on that, then they went to the Arangwes, and then we were supposed to be at the Curepe Interchange between 2010 and 2015, because it was planned in a way that once you complete one, you go on to the next, and you go on until you reach all the way to then the Tunpuna Road, and now with the highway from Kumoto to Sani Grande, all the way to Sani Grande. Unfortunately, and for reasons that I think the public would have known, between 2010 and 2015, because of the wrangling on this Curepe Interchange, nothing was done. We lost 5 years. We should have been at Piaco. Today we should have been opening the interchange at Piaco. We lost 5 years because of certain ministers made allegations that other ministers was interfering in the project. The chairman of NITCO indicated then the price was in excess of $450 million. That did not, and that is before VAT. That did not include the land acquisition. This government decided we are going to continue the project because it was started by a PNM government in 2004. We retendered the project, and as the chairman said, despite the naysayers who said we could not finish this project within budget of $221 million, today the project have been delivered. Not for $221 million, Chairman. The last count I got this morning, the project was delivered for $219.5 million, a saving of $1.5 million on that mere budget because it was managed properly. That also included 2 additional roads, additional drainage, and some other minor activities which was not part of the scope. We were able to do all that and still have a saving on this project of $1.5 million, something that the opposition and many people thought could have never happened. And if we had enough time to complete the 4 highways, for the first time in Trinidad and Tobago, you have 4 major highways ongoing at the same time. Had we been able to complete those 4, because those things span, highways span years, and it also may span administration, the country would have seen, based on the approach that we took now, on one highway, the South Highway, so far we see a saving of close to $2 billion. $2 billion on one project. Remember, that project was looking at peaking at close to $7 to $8 billion. With the revised prices, we are seeing that we could have saved over $2 billion on that one project. This project here, the saving is in excess of 200, and if you add the VAT, close to $274 million on one project. I just want to touch a part of it that I said was a little close because I got a lot of flank because as the population would recognize, I do have interest in one of the 34 properties that had to be acquired here. And no matter how I try to indicate to the population, the system, I have not gotten any money. I noticed only this week, certain people started to continue this float that the minister got $100 million for a piece of land. Well, let me make it abundantly clear. I do have an interest in one of the 34 properties, and like all the landowners in this area, that company had to be treated the same way. To date, the company placed a claim not for 100 million, not for 50 million, not for 25 million, not for 20 million, significantly less than that. That claim is being evaluated by the Commissioner of Valuation, and to date, no money have been paid to that company. No money. And I can tell you, prior to this administration, the budget for land acquisition was about $150 million. This cabinet approved a budget of $95 million. So apart from the saving on the construction, the government reduced the land acquisition to $95 million. So far, we have, I think it is just 2 properties to complete. And I can tell you, it will be completed way within the budget of the $95 million for all 34 properties. So when you look at the saving and the way this project was handled, I can tell you, a lot of the lending agencies are giving us kudos for handling a project like this. And the indication is that we should use this template going forward on all the projects that we're doing. So I want to congratulate everybody who played a part here. Now, this government also, this government also looked at the fact it is not just about building highways and interchange. I want to compliment the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, who only last week approved for the Ministry of Works a budget of $30 million to improve the safety on our highways, which includes new signage. If you look at the Curepe Interchange, you'll recognize that we have actually moved a couple notch up in terms of signage. We intend to replicate that throughout the country. The Cabinet have given us a budget of $30 million over a 3-year period to improve the signage throughout the country, improve the road markings, and to include studs on all our major highways. I want to just, I know there's a video basically that, go ahead. And this is our next step at the ministry now.
Wealth of this shared experience. The Ministry of Works and Transport will harness the talent of our nation's most creative artists for the relaunch of the Highways Beautification Unit. Established with the sole purpose to enhance the aesthetic value of our nation's highways, this beautification project themed Who We Are captures our spirit as a people. This initiative features sculptures and other large-scale artifact pieces that reflect our history, national legacy, and praised icons. Phase 1 will involve the design and installation of 9 monuments along the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway from Piarco to Grand Bazaar. Following the completion of the Curepe Interchange project, the Ministry of Works and Transport will focus on the removal of 6 signalized intersections all the way to Golden Grove. The project is divided into 2 phases, Curepe to Golden Grove and Golden Grove to Sangre Grande. This project also includes the build-out of 3 additional interchanges which are in the conceptualization stage. For the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Works and Transport has 4 major infrastructure highway projects taking place simultaneously. The Komoto to Sangre Grande project, the Pontfortin Highway project, Valencia to Toco Highway, and the recently completed Curepe Interchange project. Our main aim is to provide sustainable infrastructure that supports the needs of our citizens as well as the economic development of Trinidad and Tobago.
My nation.
Running.
If you look at the PNM manifesto, the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure had a lot of projects. I intend to carry out all these projects within time and within budget. And I do look forward to working with the PS and the technocrats there to ensure that public fund is well accounted for. What I'm doing here is all for my country. I'm very happy to serve my country. I didn't see that before, else I'd have probably cut it a little down. So the point I was trying to make, we are building highways, we are making them safer, and we do have a program to beautify our highways. Going forward, what we want to do, we want to tell a story about who we are. That is the theme for our highways. So once you land at the Piarco Airport, the international airport, and you make your way east, west, north, or south on your journey, you should be able to tell that story of who we are using these monuments at different points. And if you look on the median across there, you'll be seeing signs like that, environmentally friendly signs on the median, indicating our national birds. We really want to tell a story. I think it's time we get our highways looking at just like the first world countries, where we are very proud of who we are. That is our plan. Going forward, next week, or within the next couple of weeks, I think, the savings on this interchange, that $250 million, we will be launching the Diego Martin interchange at a cost of $191 million. What it meant is that we built one interchange, and the savings, we're going to build another one, and then there are 3 interchange planned going forward, one at Piarco, one at Macoya, and one at Trin City. Again, the savings from this interchange will go towards the down payment on those. And we're hoping that by September, we should be able to have a tender out for the interchange going east. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we all came to listen to the Prime Minister, but I want to use this opportunity to thank, firstly, the China Railway Company, who did a fantastic job. I want to thank the staff of the Ministry of Works, headed by the Permanent Secretary and Mr. Navin Ramsingh especially, who really spearheaded this project. The staff at NIDCO, who gave us all the support and who really managed this project in a way that made us very proud. I also want to thank all the stakeholders who participated, but most important, the landowners here in the Curepe area. I know it was a challenging time for you. At times, I got calls all hours of the night. People were worried about their relocation. I just want to congratulate you all for being very cooperative with us. You all always left the doors open. And today, I can say we have just one more property, a residential property to close, and I think one more commercial property, and we're just waiting for the final figures from that. So let me thank you, the citizens of this area, the Curepe area, and to all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who would have gone through some level of inconvenience during the construction period. We apologize, but I think we would have delivered on something that will bring a lot of relief. Thank you all, and may God bless our nation.
Thank you, Minister Sinanan. You know, the World Bank has identified the quality of a country's infrastructure as one of the main indicators of its national development and also an indicator of the ease of doing business. So thank you, Minister, for giving us the assurance that infrastructure development remains high on the radar of a high priority in the government. And we have many more to look forward to, and we're doing more with less. So thank you again, Minister Sinanan. At this time, I ask that you stand and join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, who will present the feature address.
Thank you very much, the Lady of Ceremonies, Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, the Honorable Terence Dale Singh, Member of Parliament for this area, St. Joseph, and also the country's Minister of Health. Excuse me. Senator the Honorable Donna Cox, our Minister of Communications, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Your Excellency Song Yumin, Ambassador Plenipotentiary of the Chinese People's Republic and Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, my parliamentary colleague, the Honorable Adrian Leons, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, the Honorable Esmond Ford, Member of Parliament for Tunapuna and Deputy Speaker in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Sonia Francis, Manager of the Ministry of Works in her capacity as Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Mr. Herbert George and his team, where he's chairman of National Infrastructure Development Company in NIDCO, Mr. Clive Clark, I understand is with us today, our Transport Commissioner, representatives of the China Railway Company and our local associates, China Railway Construction Caribbean Company Limited. I didn't see the names of the local companies here because, you know, local companies don't get any recognition. So whoever typed this, just left out the local companies. But I acknowledge their associates because I understand it was when I turned the sod here, it was a joint venture, a number of companies involved, with the main company being the China Railway Construction. Our specially invited guests, particularly Mr. Stephen Gardner, who operates out of the Office of the Prime Minister as advisor to the Prime Minister, but he's working 3/4 of his time with NIDCO and other assignments. Members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when I came here to officiate in the turning of the sod for this project, it was a different time, and we were different people. We were in a different situation. Today, I'm required to make a speech at the completion of the assignment. And I'm pleased to say that as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I would like, on behalf of my staff, the Cabinet, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to extend our sincerest thanks to all those who conceptualized and brought into effect this facility, which has made Trinidad and Tobago one step closer to the nation that we want to be. I must admit, though, that I had my doubts when this project was commenced and the commitment was given by the practitioners, particularly the newly minted minister, who didn't know too much about public construction and the impediments that normally fall in the way, but gave us the assurance that the project would be completed within budget and within time. I had my doubts. But I did know that wherever it fell, we would have been better off than where it was aiming. Ladies and gentlemen, my grandson asked me one day when I go to work, what do you do there? And I told him I make friends and I make enemies. That's what the job entails. And I want you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to understand that too. The job that I have as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, dedicated to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, involves making a lot of enemies. Because if you don't make those enemies, you would simply, at best, carry on. There's a British comedy series called Carry On, the Carry On series. Very humorous, very entertaining. But that's not what managing a country is about. It's about trying to realize the dream of the people. And what I try to do is to represent those people who are unaware of what is going on, who are unable to understand what is being said, or at the moment, it being said, don't really care, because they probably have no hope and trust no one. And they are the people that you commonly refer to as taxpayers. A few years ago, I read a book on corruption in Africa. And the book is called Our Turn to Eat. And what it meant, the whole book was about a government that came into office on the platform of engaging, tackling, and eliminating corruption. It was placed in East Africa. I won't name the country because I don't want to take issue with any particular country. But the book was written by a woman called Michaela Round. And it was written because this government came into office to fight corruption. Because Africa, as you know, is riddled with corruption in public business. But what happened after the election was that the people who got into office took the position, not that they will change what was going on in the country, but to point out that it was their turn to eat, meaning our turn to share in the largesse of the treasury, our turn to become wealthy, having been assigned an office of state, our turn to enrich our friends, our turn to eat. Upon becoming Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I carried with me a commitment not to make this administration's motto, our turn to eat. And on that basis, I knew that I'd be making enemies. But I've done that before. I've done that before. There's one particular radio announcer who comes on a weekly basis and writes a weekly column. I know he has to hate me. Because if you take away $15 billion from an entity where he featured, he has a right to spend every weekend trying to say the worst about me and my government. There's another one who spends his time on the radio 3 or 4 times a week, a former colleague of mine in the cabinet. He spent 9 years in the Prime Minister's office, getting a huge salary, and produced absolutely nothing. So he has a right to hate me. But you in this room, in the media, and with these jobs and whatever, you can engage them. You know them, you can engage them. But what about the little old lady up there in Manuel Congo? Or the little old man in Curepe, who doesn't know anything about what they're about? Or somebody in Charlottesville trying to make a living catching fish. And all these little people know is a government. Because to them, all they know is there's something called a government. Well, let me tell you something. The government is made up of people. And not all of them have the interest of this country at heart. Ladies and gentlemen, during the last local government election, this minister demonstrated to a gathering in Sangre Grande the physical appearance of $100 million. And it was really a carry box full of $100 bills. If you fill a carry box with $100 bills, you can get $1 million in there. So if it's $10 million, you get 10 carry boxes. And if it's $200 million, it represents, in that fashion, 200 carry boxes filled with $100 bills. Stick a pin on that. This overpass is sound, engineeringly well done, as good as it could ever have been done. But the little taxpayer got away from spending $200 million more for that same facility. And in fact, the minister told you for a little less, because in this finished project, we got a couple extra lay-bys that wasn't in the original project. Ask yourself, how could that be? Same concrete, same steel, same land, same everything, but you could have spent $200 million more on it. And there are those who will tell you it is the procurement process and the procurement legislation. No, it is not. Because if what passed for competition then was allowed to prevail, you could simply have said that the job was tendered and the lowest bidder was $440 million. And therefore, you awarded the contract to that bidder and not the one that wanted $500 million. And nobody in Trinidad and Tobago would have had a problem with that. But somebody would have walked away with $200 million more than was required. I'm sure that the contractors who were involved in this project, at 221, they made a profit. because they are not in the business of subsidizing the state. In the $221 million, there is a profit. I see my friend Junior Sami over there. I don't know how much he did. But Junior will remain my friend. I know him. I know his wife. I know his children. I know his grandchildren. But Junior knows that if you come to me with a project for $440 million, and I think it is not value for money, I will tell you, you're not having that. And that is what we told the cabinet. We went out to tender. Tender. Because you see, the people of this country had been conditioned to paying those kinds of prices. Conditioned to being overcharged. Conditioned to being ripped off. Conditioned to watch ministers come into government like Ms. Howard Cat. Some of them would have all used motor car. By the time they go out, the name change. And they could loan money to the treasury. And I make no apologies for this because I speak for those who have no voice in this country. So the original attempt was $440 million. The cabinet that I led, I said no. Not because I'm an engineer, not because I'm a QS, but because I knew what was happening in this country. I knew what was happening. And I knew that if the contractors were told, you're not going to get the job at that price and you go back out to tender, they will give you a price that is far better because there was so much fat and gravy in there, in whenever it was started. And I didn't only do that in my government for this big project, you know. We asked Unicott to build a swimming pool in Laventille. Swimming pool in Laventille. Unicott, with the carryover from the last carryings on, came to this cabinet, drawings, pretty drawings, nice project, except that the tender is that the swimming pool will cost $24 million. I run Unicott so fast from the cabinet with that. So with one question. If you were going to build a swimming pool in your yard with your money, will you spend $24 million on it? Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to go to Laventille now and see the beautiful Laventille swimming pool, which some of you are familiar with. Cost us less than $5 million. We could easily have awarded it for $24 million because that is what this country had become accustomed to. So we go out to tender in an era when it was not our turn to eat, but it was the time for the taxpayer to breathe. And we got a price of $221 million. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is 200 carry box full with $100 bills less than we could have done. And if I have not earned my pay for the 5 years I'm in office, I earned it on this project alone because we saved the taxpayer that unnecessary expense. And of course, the government is the largest funder of projects in this country. And the government has to set the tone. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what they say on Facebook. I don't care what they say in the ballpark. This government has set the tone for honest government in Trinidad and Tobago. And I know that our contractors have the ability to do what is required of them, doing more with less. And this project symbolizes that. And you know what that means? Based on what we have done here, we will now be in a position to influence the price of every other interchange going east. Because we now know what it can be done for. On the other hand, if we had to pay $440 million for this, the next 5 interchanges would have cost us over $2 billion because we would have set the tone and we would have changed nothing if we had not made the decisions we made on this project. The Minister of Works can tell you about the price we're paying now for hot mix. If he had the time, he would have told you. The price has come down. When we awarded the contract to build the highway from Golconda to Point Fortin, we knew and we said that that contract could be broken up into sections so as to allow our local contractors to be a part of the tendering process. There were those who felt that that was not proper. Give it to one contractor, and there's benefit to be had. That project was budgeted for just over $4 billion at the time when it went out first for tender on the eve of the general election of 2010. By the time it was awarded after, it was a $7 billion project. $7 billion. Ladies and gentlemen of Trinidad and Tobago, what would we do now with $3 billion more? What can we do now with $3 billion more? That project got into serious difficulty because the contractor went bankrupt in his home country. One contractor given that project because somebody felt that local contractors could not build the highway to Point Fortin. A part of it, any part of it. The contractor went bankrupt. But in the contract, there was a clause that says if the contractor goes bankrupt, the government, through its agency, can call the bond which ensured the project could be seized by the government. The bond is cash, an insurance policy that you can cash in if the contractor goes bankrupt. That contractor did indeed go bankrupt in Brazil and to effect in Trinidad and Tobago because the project was stopped. The local contractors who were involved in subbing with that contractor wasn't paid. Workers were not paid. This government came into office. We had to pay workers who were left unpaid. We had to pay contractors who were left unpaid. But we observed something very strange. On the 5th of September 2015, which was the last working day of that government, government agencies under the Minister of Works removed that clause from the contract which said that if the contractor went bankrupt, the bonds belonged to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. You know how much those bonds worth? $921 million. Simply by removing that clause from that contract. Whoever did that gave a gift of $921 million to the bankrupt contractor to go with. But because this government came into office, not with the label that it was our turn to eat, but with the label that we will prosecute for the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we went to court and we fought over that. And we won. And the court told us, take the money and spend it. That money is now being spent on the Point Fortin highway. $921 million. But we didn't give that project to one contractor. We broke it up into a number of sections, and local contractors, I don't know, five local contractors are now on the Point Fortin highway. And today, if you don't mind getting your wheels dirty, you can drive straight into Point Fortin on that highway now. It's not finished. The surface is not finished. There's still a lot of work to be done. But at least you could drive on it, along the routeway, all the way to Point Fortin, with 5 local contractors, local employees, local engineers, doing a project that somebody gave as a gift to a contractor who went bankrupt in Brazil for corruption, for paying bribes to Brazilian politicians. I have raised this matter not for the first time. And today, not for the last time. Because, you know, ever since I've been raising this matter, not one soul in the last government has ever deigned to respond. Not the Prime Minister, not the Minister of Works, not the Raras, and not the elements in the media. Never once, except one day in the Parliament, when I raised it a few months ago. Former Minister Rambachan said, we get back the money. I had to ask him, we who? Who is the we that got back the money? And why did we ever have to get it back in the first place? And that was done on the last day of the last administration. Ladies and gentlemen, what do $200 million represent for those who need housing in this country? For $200 million, we can build almost 400 affordable homes as are being built now by the HDC. For $200 million, that is about 4 or 5 schools. And that can pay the repair bill for the school program for 3 years. Today, I looked at the expenditure, unbudgeted expenditure, because COVID came upon us in January, and we ended up having to save body and soul and to spend money we didn't have, money we're borrowing to keep the country alive. But we spent $70 million in one area of assistance to those who are least able to look after themselves, giving grants to people to make sure they have food on their table, to make sure their children get fed. $70 million. What could $200 million do for us in the hospital system? And that is what Trinidad and Tobago has to answer at this time. Because you see, we take too much for granted, and we're too afraid to offend the fortunate. But let it not be said that in my tenure, however long or however short, that the government that I led was afraid to take on the establishment in Trinidad and Tobago. And there is where I make the enemies. $15 billion of money, taxpayers' cash, lent to Clico to bail out Clico. And then, of course, they sign a letter. A letter. When they came to borrow that money, it was a letter saying we need money. I was in the opposition then, backbench, not opposition, backbench of the government. I wasn't in the cabinet. I asked the question, how much money they need for bailout? They wouldn't tell me, because nobody knew. It was embarrassing. Maybe those who came to borrow the money knew. But those in the government, those of us in the government didn't know. But the question was asked, how much is this bailout money? Turns out that my vote was the only vote that the government couldn't command on that day. I was a backbencher, and I told my colleagues in the government, if I'm not told how much this is, I will not vote for it. And let me tell you all something else. Had I done that, I would have been automatically expelled from the PNM. But there's a clause in the PNM Constitution that says, before they could have expelled me, I had the opportunity, I would have had the opportunity to explain to the party at Balizé House why I voted against the government in the parliament. Cast your mind back on that day. The bill was not passed. We came back the following day. They said, it's $5 billion they need, $5 billion. That was what the country thought. Turned out to be $25 billion. And we accidentally got back $8 billion because there was a tribunal where we lost the arbitration and had to sell a plant, and from the sale, we got back $8 billion. Nothing else. There was $15 billion lying around out there. And the paper on which that was borrowed, there was no interest being charged. No interest. So whether they pay or they don't pay, doesn't matter. And the longer they take to pay, if ever, doesn't matter. And when we went to court to put the company into liquidation, and you know why we put them into liquidation? Because all of a sudden, after signing the letter every year, for how many years? 14, 15 years, ups and decide, we are not signing the letter again. In other words, we are not acknowledging that debt. And furthermore, we want the government off the board, and we want the government out of the chairmanship of the board. And we are having an AGM, and at that AGM, we are going to expel the government from the board. So when you hear them on the radio attacking me, it's not really me they're attacking, you know. It's the loss of fortune. Because I sent Fitzgerald Hines to tell them, if you don't sign that by a particular day, which is 48 hours from now, I will instruct the government lawyers to proceed to liquidate the company. If you don't want the company liquidated, you will sign the letter and you will withhold your ambition for expelling the government off the board and the chairmanship of that board. Well, the language they use, you wouldn't like to hear it. Not even construction language. The government went to court. We won the matter. A liquidator was put in. The company was liquidated, and the government is now in line to manage and control, and on taxpayers' behalf, run all those assets. Immediately, we created the National Investment Fund. $8 billion worth of assets from that victory, and allowed you, the public, to buy bonds as proxy owners of those shares. I can tell you today, one of the success stories of this administration is the NIF, the National Investment Fund. But you think it went like that? There were those who told us or gave us instructions as to what to do. Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. That's how it's done. And we said, no, thank you. Not in this administration. We represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we will give the people of Trinidad and Tobago the opportunity to benefit from those bonds. You think I made any friends doing that? You think I made any friends doing that? I made enemies doing that. So when you hear them talking, ask them which interests generating the furor and the froth at the corners of their mouths. Which interests generating this weekly attack on the government, weekly attack on the Prime Minister. Some of it makes no sense whatsoever. Because we have interfered with their meal. Because we didn't agree to continue Trinidad and Tobago's business the way it was going. There was a sea change in 2015. And that is why this evening we can point to this structure built for $221 million when the best bid was $440 million before. That is what a government is about, and that is what we will defend. So today, I thank all of you, particularly the contractors and the technical people who worked on that project, for demonstrating to the people of Trinidad and Tobago that it is possible to do more with less if you operate in a climate of honesty and in the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister Rowley. We can do more with less if we operate in an environment of trust and honesty. Yes? Thank you again, sir. At this time, we move forward with our program, but before we proceed with the vote of thanks, we would like... Okay, so we are going to be moving the entertainment. We're going to be having the entertainment right now, where we're going to invite Rohan to return to the stage for a brief moment. Can we welcome him, please? I think we can do a little better than that. Johan, that was beautiful. There's just something about the pan music. It seems like it just resonates so much with your soul. So no matter what kind of music or genre you're interested in, the pan music, boy, it takes you out of any, it really does lift your spirits. So thank you again, Johan Shakari. At this time, before we proceed to the planting of the trees, I just wanted to let you know, Minister just reminded me that during the construction, prior to the construction, a number of pui trees were removed from the alignment. And the government had given its commitment that for every tree that was removed, we would be replanting 2 trees. So this afternoon, we're going to see the demonstration of that, or the beginning of that. Yes, thank you, Mr. Minister, for reminding us of that. Right, so at this point in time, we'd like to invite Deputy Permanent Secretary, Acting, Navin Ram Singh, to bring the vote of thanks. Can we welcome him, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport. The Honorable Terence Dial Singh, Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph. Senator the Honorable Donna Cox, Minister of Communications. His Excellency Song Yi Ming, Ambassador of China to Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Adrian Lyons, Parliamentary Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport. The Honorable Esmond Ford, Member of Parliament for Tunapuna. Ms. Sonia Francis Yearwood, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport. Representative of the National Infrastructure Development Company, representative from China Railway, my colleagues from the Ministry of Works and Transport, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a good evening to you all. I deem it an honor and a privilege to propose the vote of thanks this evening on behalf of the Ministry of Works and the project team to all the individuals responsible for this successful undertaking of this project and the official ceremony. A lot of the speakers before me did thank some of the project team, but I truly believe that you should really thank people who came out and worked very hard in making this project a success. Within just 1 year, just over 1 year, we have changed the landscape of this intersection. We have some pictures on the slide that shows you exactly that. We would like to say thank you to Mr. Nazir Mohammed for kindly consenting to offer the invocation at the beginning of the ceremony. His prayers channels our thoughts towards the Creator above, and who is the provider and sustainer of all things. First and foremost, I must thank Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who despite his busy schedule has found the time to grace us. We thank you for your overall vision for this country, which includes improved infrastructure. Dr. Rowley, I could safely say we at the Ministry of Works, we are happy for your guidance, and we will continue to work hard in developing the East-West Corridor. To the Minister of Works and Transport, Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, we say thank you for your stewardship, vision, and encouragement on this project. We must also thank him for his effort and guidance to ensuring that all approvals were obtained to ensure that we could start planning to remove the next 6 intersections between here and Golden Grove. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Herbert George, Mr. Herbert George, Chairman of NIGO, for delivering an excellent overview of this project. To the project team, a project like this is not done by one individual. We have a group of people that comes together to ensure the success of this project. This project was a unique project. It was a design-build project. So we have the client or the owner, which is the Ministry of Works and Transport, led by the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Sonia Francis Yearwood, and the on-site team of the PMU, Ms. Sherissa Lamont and Mr. Dheeraj Ramcharan. To NIDCO, the employer, we must thank Ms. Esther Farmer, Mr. Steve Garib Singh, and Mr. Marius Charles. The FIDIC engineer represented, Planning and Associate Limited represented Ms. Jillian Sharp. The acquisition consultant, which one of the key in any project is that we must have timely acquisition. Our team was led by our legal team within the Ministry of Works, Mr. Marvin Gonzalez, and it was supported by ACQ and Associate, Ms. Maureen Braveboy. The design build contractor, which is a joint venture company comprising of China Railway Construction, the project manager, Mr. Wang, he worked tireless to ensure night and day to ensure the timely delivery of this project. Pace Construction Services, Mr. Junior Joseph. Chase Engineering Limited, Ms. Enrique Chase. Junior Sami Group of Company, which is the main subcontractor used by the joint venture, represented by Mr. Junior Sami and Mr. Hugh Murphy. Of course, the utility companies. TNTech, we must thank Mr. Kelvin Ramsuk, WASA, Mr. Alan Bunking, TSTT, Ms. Riet Waldroff, Mr. Riet Waldroff, and NGC, Mr. Winston Sijatan. Our traffic warden division, they did help us a lot in ensuring traffic management from time to time. Mr. Protein, the Commissioner of State Land, Ms. Sicharan, the Commissioner of Valuation, Ms. Howell, and the Director of Surveys, Mr. Abdul. We must thank the Highway Patrol branch. They, from time to time, whenever we require their services, they would respond to help us with traffic management. And we must thank all the supervisors and all the workers who work long hours, day and night, to complete this project. A project of this dimension could not happen overnight. It required meticulous planning, timely utility relocation and vacant possession, due care in execution, and an eye for detail. I cannot thank the project team enough for their respective contribution and dedication, which ensured a successful project completion. Special thanks must be given to the media and the hard-working organizers of today's event. The staff of the Corporate Communication Unit from the Ministry of Works, led by Kizzy, calling all 11 last night, and NIDCO, led by Nazir. Prestige Holding, Mr. Tony Martin, China Railway, Mr. Wang, the Traffic Warden Division, members of the Protective Service, and the landscaper Monteco Creation Limited. I must also express my sincere thanks and appreciation to all the families who were directly affected by this project, especially those who were relocated to facilitate construction. Special thanks must also be given to the families of the nearby communities, Springvale, Spring Village, and the environments, as well as the commuting public, for your patience and understanding. I clearly recall a gentleman who lives on the south side. One evening he approached me and he told me that he couldn't believe in his lifetime he would have witnessed such a transformation to this intersection. Finally, to all of you who came out to recognize this milestone with us, thank you for your presence this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, and please be safe.
Thank you, Verna. We are here at the Curepe Interchange, also known as the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway Southern Main Road Interchange, for the official commissioning of this interchange project. Of course, this project being part of the larger East-West Corridor Expansion and Improvement Works program. Now, initially, this project saw a budget of some 500 million TT dollars. Now, the current government was able to go back to the drawing board, speak with stakeholders, and have dialogue about the contracts. And this process of dialogue saw some saving of almost $300 million. That leading up to 221 million. Actually, correction, Minister of Works and Transport Rohan Sinanan reminded today that up to today, that project came up to $219.5 million. Now, we've had many We've had many speakers this afternoon, some of them, of course, being the Prime Minister, who initially said that he had his doubts about the initial program being able to meet time and be on budget, as well as meeting the specs. He said he was pleasantly surprised that this was the case. Now, looking at the fact that we are here for the official launch, this official launch or the official commissioning took place though the overpass or the interchange was functionally opened previously by Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinanan and members of NIDCO. Now, at that point in time, which was April 29, they cut the ribbon and decommissioned the traffic lights. The minister maintains an ambitious target of eliminating traffic lights from Port of Spain to Sangre Grande in 3 to 4 years. Now, as the Prime Minister and members of that entourage are moving from the location of the official speech and speech making, they are crossing one of the extensions to go to a lot where we can look forward to the Prime Minister planting trees, unveiling a plaque, and officially turning the lights on the overpass. So we want to thank you for tuning in to get it right here. He is flanked by ministers. We have the Prime Minister next to the Minister of Health and MP for the area, Mr. Terence Dialsing. We're also looking at the fact that members of NIDCO are in attendance, as well as the main contractor, the China Railway Company, and the Chinese ambassador is with them. The Transport Commissioner is in full attendance as we see the Prime Minister being ushered to the first tree. We will not try to name that type of tree, but this is also days before Corpus Christi, where we will have a lot of planting taking place. And this is also a reminder that seedlings have been made available at different spots by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Now we are looking forward to see, because the Prime Minister first turned sod on this project in February of 2019. So I can only imagine what the feeling would be like to be at the culmination of that exercise, which saw so much money saved for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. This Prime Minister spoke about a text called Our Turn to Eat, which specifically addressed tackling government corruption and saving money during projects like this. And there we see we have sod not being turned, but being used to fill in this tree, a living memorial of the event that is happening on this evening, the 8th of June, 2020. Now we are looking forward to seeing the unveiling of a plaque in addition to the other two trees. And of course, we know that the Prime Minister has good skill and talent, having letting us go into what his garden looks like at the Prime Minister's residence. I think right now he will be unveiling the plaque. Right now you're also seeing some of the signs that will be on the interchange at this point in time. This is the first of 2 trees, or first of 3 trees rather, and it seems as though we have someone else filling in the sod for that tree. It seems as though the chairman of NIDCO is being ushered to the 3rd tree, that person in the form of Mr. Herbert George. So this seems to be the Chinese ambassador who is planting the 2nd tree. So the first tree was done by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, the second one by the Chinese ambassador, and we will see who does the honors on the 3rd tree. Remember, we are here at the Curepe Interchange project, the official commissioning of this project, which is part of the larger East-West Corridor Expansion and Improvement Works program. So time for the 3rd one, and it is none other than the Minister of Works and Transport, Senator Rohan Sinanan, someone who was described as one of the hardest working ministers in the government. He also spoke to the fact that this is something that was on his list of things to do when he took his oath to implement government policies while doing more with less. Now, Minister Sinanan gave a preamble to his address about facing a $3 million project on his second day in office and moving that to under $1 million. But the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, is ready to unveil a plaque just before he does a symbolic lighting of the overpass. So we stand ready for that unveiling, as we also see the Minister of Health flanking him. So it reads, the Ministry of Works and Transport, Curepe Interchange, and it's unveiled by the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley. And we're also seeing that, well, the applause is rolling in for that. So this is the second of 3 such activities that is going to be happening right there. We're just looking and we see, of course, the necessary photo shoot or the photo op in front of that plaque, which will remain there standing the test of time as a marker in this day of our history, which the Prime Minister says this is a day that gets us closer to where we want to go as a nation. Now we're looking to the Prime Minister to flip the switch for the ceremonial lighting of the overpass. Also reminding you that we are looking forward to the NLCB draw and news following that. And yes, there we have it. So and there was light. So we see that light taking place here at this, the official commissioning of the Curepe Interchange project on the 8th of June 2020. Now, the Prime Minister is being ushered away while also inspecting some of the work that was done, work that saved the nation almost $300 million TT, while being done as one of 4 major such works. It was not put off of time or task through the COVID pandemic, which is something that speaks to the abilities that we have on our islands of Trinidad and Tobago. The Minister, Rohan Sinanan, also spoke about that, saying that breaking up large projects into smaller projects or smaller packages allowed for more bidding and greater bidding by local contractors, which is part of the reason that the budget was able to come down to where it stands at today at $219.5 million as opposed to the $500 million as originally budgeted. Now, the minister also spoke of, this is Minister Sinanan, also spoke of another project to Komoto, from Komoto to Sangre Grande rather, breaking the total project into smaller packages, as we said, allowing for greater inclusion of local contractors, competitive bidding, and reduced budgets. He spoke to having an interest in one of the 34 properties having to be moved or relocated, but that would not stop the way of progress, and it is all being done above board. Now, as the minister and his entourage, the Prime Minister, move away, we are getting ready to wrap up on this end. They're just at the bus stop, posing for another photo opportunity, I gather. But as we wrap up from this end, this has been the official commissioning of the Curepe Interchange project, part of the larger East-West Corridor Expansion and Improvement Works program. Thank you for viewing it right here on TTT. And we also remind you that we now go to the NLCB draw, followed by your news. Thank you so much very much.